I was going north, and then I looked in the rearview mirror, and then I seen lights. And I said, you guys, they're following us. What do I do? Where do I go? They said, just go fast, just try and lose them, just try and lose them. So I stepped on the gas, and I looked in the rearview mirror, and I seen it stop. We heard a shot.
Christian A. Youngman was shot and killed while he was a passenger in a truck driving down a rural road between the town of Strathmore, Alberta, and the Siksika First Nation. A champion powwow dancer and a hockey star, in many ways, Christian was seen as an example of reconciliation in action, a bridge between two communities often fraught with racial tension. His family believes that tension played a role in his death.
My son was a very, very good kid and well-loved and liked by everybody. And the reality behind it is it was an act of racism that took his life. And that's hard for me to comprehend.
Last March, after an alumni hockey game, Christian went out with friends to a Strathmore pub.
I live way...
Brooker Pretty Young Men and Brianna Crawler say at the end of the night, an exchange with strangers outside the bar led to a fight that was peppered with racial slurs.
He was standing there and he was calling me names. And
what did he say?
He told me, go back to the f***ing reserve, you f***ing dirty Indians. Like, get the f*** out of here. Like, I was looking at him and I was like, are you serious? Like F you, like, don't talk to me like that. I'm like, that's racist, right?
Brooker and Brianna say when they saw a gun, they jumped in their truck and were chased out of town. On the road back home to Siksika, Christian was shot.
And then I pulled him on and I started doing the CPR on the seat. And then, I don't know, I kind of knew he was gone there. It's just, I just felt him. It's crazy how I could, like, my best friend died in my arms.
2 days later, 2 white men, brothers from Strathmore, were arrested and charged with first-degree murder. As news of Christian's death spread, anger was building online.
What I heard from certain members in the community...
Buck Breaker is a counselor in Siksika. He was worried more violence would follow.
We didn't want that to escalate to the point where our young people would go into Strathmore and take more action. If that would have happened, the jail cells would have been full, and the morgue would have been full, and the courthouse would have been full.
Christian's mother, Melody, was also worried, but she refused to respond with anger or hatred. Instead, she turned to her culture and to the teachings of her grandparents and called for peace between the two communities.
My son's life was taken in the wrong way, but this isn't the way we're going to deal with it, not with revenge. We weren't taught like that.
The situation was so tense that people from Siksika were afraid to go into Strathmore. So Melody organized a candlelight vigil from the reserve into town, her attempt to rebuild the bridge that her son represented.
I didn't want our community to be afraid or feel scared, showing them that, no, you can keep your head up. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of where you come from. We belong here.
You know, it's not a huge bustling downtown.
Mayor Pat Fuel took an unusual step that upset some in this predominantly white town. He wrote a letter in the local paper admitting there was racism in Strathmore and called on people there to confront it.
Were you worried about talking that openly about racism in Strathmore?
Yeah, and I was worried about the controversy, but sometimes you have to do the right thing, even if the right thing is the most painful or difficult thing to do. And so I decided I would do that.
That's the reality that we have to face.
Before Christian's death, a meeting like this between Strathmore and Siksika leadership would never happen.
Strathmore and Siksika is going to be a strong example.
They've been neighbors for over 100 years, But outside of school or sports, people mostly kept to themselves.
I'm saying hi to a First Nations person I run into at a store, where maybe before I would not be rude or anything, but you just get comfortable in not doing things. You just interact silently. And so I'm reaching out a little more. I'm holding doors, I'm saying hi.
Although the steps are small and the progress is slow, Melody hopes Christian's tragic death will be a wake-up call for her community and others like it.
And I hope that this can change the future for First Nations, because there's so much injustice towards First Nations and times need to change. Maybe this is one of the cases that can make that change happen.
But the real test in this new relationship will come next year, when the two men charged with Christian's death go to court.
Wow, and Connie, that will be such a critical juncture, right? I mean, do you have a sense of the different ways that case may play out?
Well, that's really the big question. You know, I think that when people hear about Christian's story, they're inevitably going to think about other high-profile cases like Colton Boushie or Tina Fontaine. And in those cases, the attention seemed to inflame some of the racial tensions that existed in those communities. So it's really remarkable what Siksika First Nation and Strathmore have been able to do here to try to move forward together. But obviously a big stress on this new relationship will come when this case hits the courts next year. When or if there's a trial, we don't know yet. There's a preliminary hearing scheduled for January, but when or if there is a trial, whatever the outcome is going to be is likely going to cause some more tension, and there will be people on both sides in Siksika and in Strathmore who will question whether or not justice has been served, and that's definitely something to watch.
Okay, Connie, thanks very much.
Thanks, Andrew.